In the last video we did the following things I have in this list. We added a back button to the activity form. I checked the side effects of removing the text align center from the CSS, and I revisited the CSS file and moved all the homepage CSS into the homepage component. Then I sanitized the HTML generated in the activity description in the editor, and then I made the editor display properly. So let me move everything to the down column. So today in this video I want to do a couple of things. First, I want to fix this error which I got when I added an emoji into the application. I think this can be a rather common thing. So let's fix this. So fix emoji error. Now the error tells me it's in the add activity component. So the error is in the add activity component, and here we got it. Yes. So the nice thing is that VS Code automatically tells me there is a problem. Emojis should be wrapped in span and have role image img and have an accessible description with ARIA label. So the emoji is here, and so I'm going to add a span element. So the span also has a closing tag. Now as you can see, I can see the, let me make this bigger. I can see the emoji here. I see this, but if I press, like I'm pressing the arrow key 2 times to go through this icon. For example, I'm pressing 2 times because this is an emoji. Basically is interpreted as just two characters. It's an Unicode character that takes the space of 2 characters. So I go here and I close the span element. Then I need to make, like here, I need to have role image, role equals image, and also I need an ARIA label. ARIA label. So ARIA label, the ARIA label attribute, well, HTML attribute is used to define a string that labels the current element. Use it in cases where a text label is not visible on the screen. So let's call it arrow left. I describe what the image is. So yeah, we don't have the error anymore. So this point is solved, and I want to point out that having an accessible site is very important, and I don't think I am able to cover this topic in this course because we have too many things to do just to make the app work. So I hope to be able to do that. And it's also a topic I need to write on my blog very soon. So let's go back to Trello, and I'm going to move this to the down column. Sorry. So today I want to do this. Okay, automatically reload activities when I add a new one. Let me move this into the did in the last video, did in the current video column. Okay, automatically reload the activities when I add a new one. If you noticed in the previous videos, sometimes I add a new activity, and as soon as I press save, I go back to the activities list, but I don't see the activity I just added. And this is a problem because basically I'm storing the activity into IndexedDB, and then I'm not reloading the activities from IndexedDB. So what I must do is this. I go into add activity to the add activity component. We have this add activity function which I call when I press the save activity button. So add activity basically sanitizes the description and title. We did this in the last video, and then we store the activity into the into IndexedDB, and then we set the screen back to activities. I think I should call a reload activities function, which we must pass from the parent component. So I'm going to add it to the props of add activity, and then this is in the app component. So here we pass the reload activities function, which no, sorry, it was here, the add activity component. We pass the reload activities function, which now is underlined in red because I didn't define it. So now let's go up here and yes, basically what I want to do is I want to do this. I want to do const activities equals, it's an async function that is going to replicate basically what we have in this use effect call. So here we run this when the application is started, and let me wrap this logic in here. So reload activities is going to call get activities, which is this function that gets the activities from IndexedDB and sorts them, and then sets them as the current set of the activities. So the React component that lists them, which is the activities list component, is going to automatically re-render with a new list. So what I want to do is, since I have this logic here, I'm going to call reload activities here. Okay, so yes, and we have a problem here because I'm calling set activities, but this is defined in the as a hook in the component, so I need to use this, need to define this here. So reload activities is defined here, and we have no problem because we have no problem because this is the only place where we are using this. All right, so this is still red. Why? Oh, sorry, I forgot the equal sign. Okay, now I save, I go back to the application, and let me well, this is already working because we are calling this when the application starts and the app component renders. But let me try adding a new activity. So test activity, add this July the 2nd, and hey, this is the content. I set the location to here and I save the activity. So I should see, this is interesting. This is interesting. We have an error. So we have an error. The activities. In the activities database IndexedDB, we have, this is the activity we just added right now. It's a test activity. Oh, right. So I'm storing, instead of storing title and description, due to the changes I did in the past video, we are storing sanitized title and sanitized description, which is not something I want to do. So let me search for sanitized title. I think I should say title, sanitized title, and description is sanitized description. So if I don't add, so this is an object, and if I don't add the key for the object, the key is the name of the property itself. Yeah, so let me now go here and say testing again, hey, and then choose a location and save the activity, and here we have, okay, here we are. So this is working, automatically reload activities when we add a new one, but I also fixed an error. So fix error in sanitized properties. Okay, so now we have these activities that are corrupted, basically. They are not complete, and first I can't edit them, and I can't also delete them. And this is something I want to add to my list of things to do, and add the ability to edit an activity. This is something we want to do, and also add the ability to delete an activity. And I think the first is, well, this ability to delete an activity is the simplest thing we can do now to make our list look better. So I'm going to do it now, and I think I'm going to reuse these buttons up here, which are nice to see. So one thing that you might have noticed is that I'm trying to navigate the application, like I go here and I'm pressing the back button and I go back to the initial page of the browser. This is because I'm not using like URLs. For example, if I'm opening this activity, which has an ID of 6 in the IndexedDB database, I should see like a URL, something like this, activity 1 or 6, sorry, activities -6, the ID of the activity. If I press back, I should go back to, for example, this, which is the list of activities, or to the /activities URL. And this is calling routing, and this is something I'm going to add also. Add routing, probably using the viewRouter library. So we are starting without any library, but as we go along and we notice that things are not working as we expect, we are going to add things. So this is one of the things we're going to add very soon. So right now I'm going to add a delete button to these activities. So so two things: add the ability to delete an activity, and also I want to do something else, which is, yes, this. Before adding an activity, it must at least have a title. So we fix this problem of not having a title, which is bad. So let me go this is the thing we're going to do now. So to delete an activity, first I want to add a button, and we have the buttons in here in the add activity component, and I'm also going to add them to the activity detail component. So this is the one. Let me see here. We have, so we have two div elements. So one contains the description, which is the bottom one, and one contains the header. And I want to, well, I can add this to the header. I'm going to add a button here, edit activity. No, actually, delete activity. It's going to be delete activity on click. And this button here is the, I'm going to remove that. So I added this div, but I'm going to, sorry, I don't remember. Okay, this is the div for the button, and I think I can close the above div, which wraps the whole header. So we should have a header bar on top that wraps any button we are going to add, and we are going to have two buttons basically. So I'm going to remove this thing. We have, this is a grid because, okay, this was setting the grid in the other component. I'm going to remove all the CSS here. Sorry. Okay. Let me see without any CSS how this looks. Okay, delete activity is not defined. Right. Let me add an empty function here just to test this out. Okay, we have the button here, but the layout is completely gone. So let me see why. Removing all the CSS. The layout is still completely gone. So why? Okay, template columns, we should have, like this defines the columns, and I should have a grid on top. So I should have a grid on top of this. Let me see if I can get by with adding the div here. So I'm not inside this new grid that I'm making in this other div. Let me see. Kinda works, but it's not. Maybe if I say width is 100%. No. So yeah, this is because I'm floating to the right. I should just use grid area main. So the thing that, okay, let me add a div here that wraps everything. So let me use this div here to wrap everything inside it. So I can make a new grid. It's kind of confusing, but let me. Okay, so we now have this div that contains the buttons, and then here I add, let me make this more I want to make this more like indented, correctly indented, so I can have a clear idea of what this thing is doing. Okay, the div is here. This div is wrapping everything in there. Okay, and we have the first div, which is the activity, the delete activity button. So basically here I'm going to make display grid, and I want to add the grid template rows. It's like I'm going to copy this from the activity form, which was setting this to 80 pixels. 80 pixels for the button, and then auto, which just says use whatever it takes. Okay, it's working, it's kind of working, because, no, it's working like we had before. And then I just want to make the button a little bit less to the right. And to do this, I'm going to make max width 1000 pixels. Let me see, maybe less. Okay, kinda working. So I think that this is not, this is probably one side effect of me removing the text align center in the global CSS file. So let me, this is the date, activity date component. The activity date component is this one. I'm going to say text align center. Let me see. Okay, kind of works, but maybe right is better. Okay, I like it better, but we're going to make this look more beautiful once we are finished with everything. So delete activity is a button, and I want to make this button red, like so the background color, let me see. So the way I use try out colors is by going here into the DevTools, and then I can like pick a color and try to alter this into being more or less reds. This looks nice. We can copy the X value, the hexadecimal value here, and I'm going to paste this. So now if I close this, I see the red button. So I don't know if it's like in a place that it's too evident, or we can move this to the bottom, because deleting an activity is not something we're going to do very often, right? So let's skip this for now. So I'm going to delete an activity. Hey, let me try this alert to see if this works. It works. Now I just need to figure out how to delete an activity from IndexedDB, and then I'm going to call reload activities, and I'm also going to, like, this screen is going to disappear because we are deleting this activity, and we are going to have a default screen for when like you have this URL, which we don't have URLs right now, but imagine we are opening the application and we see the list of activities, and maybe we can show the last one in the details, or maybe we can show nothing and like some kind of words that say select an activity, or maybe we can show a dashboard. Dashboard is something I never thought about. could be a good idea. Let me add this to the to-do. Explore dashboard idea. So as we are building an application, we get ideas. This is why you should just start sometimes. Okay. So delete an activity. How do we delete an activity? Let's start with the basics. So first I'm going to say delete activity. So we are going to call the delete activity, yeah, we don't need an invocation here, otherwise every time we load the page, I think we are going to invoke the method. So we are delegating this to the delete activity method. So we know which activity this is from the current activity object. So let me console.log current activity. So I go to the inspector in the console, and I'm opening activity and I press delete. We get an object which has the title, the location, description, date, time, but we don't have the ID. So this is a problem, because how can we delete an activity if we don't know how we can like reference this into our database? So right now we are using IndexedDB. This will probably be different when we are going to add GraphQL, but well, in the details, but we will always need to have an ID, otherwise we don't know how to say delete this activity in particular. So the ID is something we get in the key here. So before I said like activities.6, but actually this specific activity will be activity.13, because this is the key of the activity. So let me just go into the app component. This is where we get the list of activities, and we get them from getActivities. So getActivities is this function here, which gets the activities from initActivities. So let's go to initActivities. initActivities gets them from the IndexedDB API. So we are going to do getAll, and then we just return them. So we don't have the ability to get the key value thing. Well, actually no. So let me see here. I can say console.log activities. So when I reload the application, activity is a promise. So let me actually console.log them here. Here we have our array. So the array has, so the index here is not the index we have, the key we have in IndexedDB. So how can we solve this? We can see getAll keys. So let me see getAll keys. getAll keys. getAll keys. So So if I call get all keys here, what do we get? We get the keys. So we can either get the values or the keys. So I'm also thinking that as soon as we add GraphQL, the keys in IndexedDB won't match the keys in the backend. So we will need some way of merging them when we're going to use the application locally without an internet connection, and then we go and sync the activities to the database. All things we still need to do, but things we are going to do. So basically now what I can do is just use the index we get from the activities. So I can say here I can iterate the activities, and let's say activities dot for each, and we get a callback function that gets a value, an index. So we can say value index. Actually, I can call this activity index, and I can say activity.id equals index. So yeah, I can console log the activities now, and I should get the array with the ID. So I'm doing I'm doing like a dumb error here, because like see the first activity here, which is called testing again. No, actually it's correct. So 6 5 4 3 2 1. Okay, so the order here does not match. The ID here does not match the ID in the specific array here, but it matches the ID we get from IndexedDB. Because this is working correctly, right? So if I say, for example, now I can go to the activity details component, we get the delete activity. So if I want to delete the activity here, testing again, which is number 6 in IndexedDB, let me say alert, we are going to get 6, because we are really going to delete this activity number 6. Okay, so now what I can do is I can call delete activity current activity.id. I'm also going to call this, I'm going to call the so into add activity I called reload activities, okay, and set screen activities. So this is probably the same thing you are going to call here. So reload activities and then set screen activities. But we don't have access to those functions here because we need to pass them as props. So reload activities and then set screen. All right. So delete activity. Okay, we need to define this into the, so where is this activity detail component used in activities.js. Okay, here we need to implement the delete activity function, which we are going to call delete activity, which we are going to get from the app component. So we're going to implement this soon. So the other thing we need to do is we need to add the set screen and reload activities props here. So set screen and reload activities. Set screen is this one, and reload activities is this one. And we don't have access to this yet, so we need to pass it. Okay, we need to pass this from the app component. So let me go in app and into the activities component here. Right here, we need to pass. So we need to pass delete activities and reload activities. Delete activities. Delete activity is this. Reload activities is this. We already have reload activities defined, but we don't have delete activity. So let's do it. Here I'm going to, okay, here at the bottom of everything, I'm going to say const delete activity equals, so we're going to pass an activity ID. So we're going to pass an ID, and the this will delete activity. So how do we delete? Well, first let me do one thing. I'm going to go in the activity detail component. Okay, we are passing the ID. Perfect. So let's go back to the app component, and we can now figure out how to delete an activity. And in my IndexedDB guide, let's search how to delete data into an object store. Okay, this is the code we need. So I'm going to see, well, first I need to, this is an async function because we are going to use the await keyword. So db, we get db from this function. Well, I'm copying the code from this function here. So alright, the key is the thing I call ID here is the key. So let me call this key, and then the store name is activities. Okay, so I think that this should be working already. Let me go here and try to delete this activity. Okay, so range error, maximum call stack size exceeded. We have an infinite loop, I think, because delete activity is calling delete activity. I'm dumb. So I'm dumb because here in the activity detail component, I'm calling the delete activity function, which is this function, right? So, right, this should be, delete activities should be a function that we get in the props. And so I leave this as is, and I'm going to change this delete activity handler. So in the button here, I'm going to say delete activity handler. Okay, let me see. We go here, delete activity. Nothing happens. Let me go in the console, no errors. In the IndexedDB database, nothing happened. Are we sure? Let me try to reload the activities. No. So let me try to delete this one. Delete activity. Nothing happens. Why? So first I want to go into, well, how do we debug this? I'm going into the delete activity function in the app component. Let's first see if we are reaching this code. So I'm just adding an alert. So we got the number back, so we are reaching this point. Let me see if we get the key. So go back here, delete activity number 5. So this code is not working. Why not? Delete activity. Delete activity. We are passing delete activity. This is strange because, like, we open the store and then we call delete. Oh, right. Okay, so if you remember before, I was doing, when I was talking about the ID and the key, I said, like, we can use this number here, which is just the order actually, and we can use this instead of the key, which is something I used to simplify the code here. But we can't do this because here in delete activity I'm saying delete by key, right? And I'm passing the key number from 0 to 6, and we have 0 activities with the second column from 0 to 6, and this is why I don't see any like effect. So I need to do, what I need to do here is I need to say keys is init keys. This is another method I need to add. I say init keys, get all keys, and then I'm going to merge these two results. So activities is this, keys is this, and this is going to be, so we have the index. What I can say here, activity.key equals keys index. So let me, first I need to go where I use the activity.id property, which I think I'm only using this in activity detail. Let me see here. I'm going to pass the key. I'm not using the ID anywhere else. Okay. So first I'm going to, before testing this, I'm going to say console.log activities and see if we get the right keys. Activities. So I go to the console. We already have this code running because it's just, okay, it should be working. So the activity testing again is key 13. Testing again is this one, key 13. So right now I can remove this console log and I should be able to call delete and the activity is gone. I reload the page, the activity is gone. I can remove this. Okay, the other thing I want to do, but we are running short of time and I'm going to do this in the next video, is I want to, after I delete an activity, as you can see, I'm still watching the previous activity. So what I want to do is like show an empty screen, an empty state screen when I delete an activity. Okay, this is something I want to do next, so let's move this to the top. And yeah, add routing is another thing I want to do as soon as possible. Cool. So add the ability to delete an activity is something I did. And then before adding an activity, it must at least have a title. Let's do this in the next lesson, so I'm going to move this to the top. All right. Cool. So let's see you in the next video.